All right, welcome in to the Pharmacist and the Photog Games, Grooves, and Grub. I am the Pharmacist Dion Spencer alongside the Photog Steve Moss. The Photog who, for the first time in 13 years, is going to be shooting video of a coach other than Mark Stoops on the UK football sideline.
Which will seem kind of strange because I am an unabashed fan of Mark's, just from the private conversations we've had over the years on the sideline. I could tell you some stories. He is not afraid to open up when you get him in the right situation. But yeah, Kentucky, it looks like will sign Will Stein, the offensive coordinator at Oregon. We're recording this on a Monday night, December the 1st. This probably will become official, I would say, by the time this gets posted. Nothing official yet from UK, but after that 41-0 loss at Louisville on Saturday, UK deciding to let Mark Stoops go. And by the way, I'm kind of surprised that Mitch Barnhart, the athletic director, even pulled the trigger, because Kentucky fans will know that Mitch is very slow to create waves, and in a lot of ways that's good. He's a good man, but people sometimes question his running of the athletic department.
Well, he's slow to make waves, except when it comes time to having guys sign ridiculous contracts.
Well,
which he did, previously when we got bailed out by Arkansas, but
Mark Stoops bailed them out this time.
Yeah.
His buyout was $37.7 million over a 60-day period, not 60 months, 60 days, which completely would have handcuffed the athletic department and that budget. They could have obviously gone to the university and borrowed the money, and then Mark Stoops was like, you know what? I'll take it over X number of years so it's manageable. So it looks like Mark agreed to that. That will, of course, keep Kentucky fans in his graces and vice versa. I think his legacy is probably sealed at Kentucky now, and it's not like another former coach who claimed it was a basketball school,
right?
Who might get his flowers way down the road.
Right. Yeah, it's I'm torn because, I was as vocal as anybody throughout different parts of the season saying we needed to make a change. But again, it's one of those deals that's like when Cal was leaving, it's like, who are you going to get? There's a limited number of people from the basketball side of things that are going to be able to withstand the scrutiny that it takes to be the coach at Kentucky. Kind of the problem with Kentucky football is, who are you going to get to come in here and basically put their career out there on the line and say, without thinking, okay, if I have a couple good years, maybe I can jump ship somewhere else.
Or, $9 million, which was what Stoops was making, ranked him in the top 10 in the country. It could be a situation where you stay here a while.
Sure.
If you have success. The good news, and this is, part of Stoops' legacy, he has made it into a good job.
Right.
Because whoever comes in here, and it looks like it'll be Will Stein, the former Louisville quarterback, who his dad played at Kentucky. Stein's dad played at Kentucky, I think under Kersey.
Kersey as well.
And who is still a season ticket holder of UK football. He won't have to worry about that now.
Right.
But back to Stoops, he's made it into a good job by having, albeit throw out the last two seasons, he had a very good run there. I mean, he went to 8 straight bowl games, won 10 games a season twice. And, with Barnhart opening up the wallet, it's a good job.
Yeah.
Now, granted, you're going to bang heads with the best football programs in the country every Saturday, but that's, if you're a competitive guy, that's kind of what you want.
Yeah, I mean, and, let's face it, Kentucky fans, if we just, after the last 2 years, we get back to winning 7, maybe 8 games a year for a couple of years, that's, you're going to extend that honeymoon period as a new coach for a little while anyway. And then we start to think ridiculous thoughts like, hey, we should be competing for an SEC championship, which I don't know that we're ever going to do that.
Well, they were close. They had the 1 year that all they had to do was beat Georgia, and they were going to go to the SEC championship game.
Is that all they had to do? Beat Georgia?
Yeah. Well, it got to the point where at least it came down to one game.
It was a possibility.
Yeah.
Right.
Which had never happened before. Previous teams coached by Bear Bryant, maybe the only teams that were close. But yeah, I think what Mark has done here is pretty remarkable, given the fact, and we've talked about it here before. He was the guy who called Mitch Barnhart and said, "Hey, I'm interested in the opening there."
Yeah.
From everything I've heard, Mark Stoops never once flew to Lexington and looked at the facilities and thought, well, these are nice, but they're not what we had, wherever. That he never even bothered looking at the facilities. They hammered out a deal, and then the first time he saw the place was when he flew in for his announcement.
Right. Yeah. I'm torn because I look at the fact that the guy, the winningest UK football coach of all time. Granted, some of that's just because of longevity, but still, you can't argue with like what you're saying. What he's done, we had a lot of good seasons. We had seasons that could have been much better.
Yep.
Maybe had he loosened the reins a little bit on his OCs, which I still think is ultimately probably his downfall.
Well, 4 running plays against Texas. He wins that game. He's still probably the coach.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Now the big question now is, will Stein be enough to convince, I still maintain something that we talked about several weeks ago. I'd like to know whose contract is going to be bigger next season, Will Stein's or Cutter Boley's, because Boley's going to have people, knocking down his door, I think, to transfer. And he's a talented enough kid, and he did that interview today where he basically said, I'm going to be exploring all my options. And you can't blame him.
As he should.
Yeah.
I was going to say as he should, because he has been probably the lone bright spot outside of a punter named Aiden LaRosse.
Yeah.
He's been the only bright spot for that team this year, just watching him grow every week. Now, granted, he didn't play so hot at Vandy or at Louisville, but neither did the guys around him.
Right.
But I would think that Cutter has got to like the hire if it's in fact Will Stein, because Will Stein, everywhere he's been, has had his offenses in the top 10 in the country, number wise, and when you talk about total offense and yards per game. So I think Cutter and his family, yes, they're going to have a decision to make, but I think the money, whatever it takes, will be there.
Yeah. And you have to at least be optimistic about the fact that, Kentucky's apparently hiring an offensive guy as opposed to Stoops, who was seen widely across all of college football as the defensive guy. So if you want to keep your stud on offense, you got to make that move.
Well, and we've discussed this here before too. I likened it to the Tim Couch situation, where Bill Curry had Tim Couch running the option there the last couple of games of his career, of Bill's career, and then they purposely, CM Newton purposely made the hire of Hal Mummy because of what he was doing at Valdosta State, which was throwing it all over the yard, racking up huge numbers and winning football games. And Tim obviously flourished in that system, became the number 1 pick in the NFL draft, and Hal Mummy is the kind of the father of the whatever that spread is that you want to call it.
Right.
So I said I think Cutter Boley has to be one of those guys in on the decision making process, or at least gauge what he thinks of Bush Hamden, and I think he came out in support of Mark Stoops, but it was just time, and it took me 12 games this season to come to that conclusion. I know you were all about, we need to make a change. We need to make a change. I'm like, the guy has earned the right to straighten things up and clean up his mess. But after the Vandy game, I was leaning that way. After the Louisville game, I'm like, you know what? I really like Mark, but I think both parties need to go their ways and everybody regroup.
Yeah, I mean, I texted you and said this is Cal 2.0 all over again. But I just feel like had they been even competitive against Louisville, I think Stoops keeps his job. But you talk about coming out and just rolling over. It's just a shame because to think of what we had this season with Cutter Boley, I mean, you look at it and you're like, well, he had a pretty good season. He broke a couple of records this year that are fairly significant. I mean, he set the UK freshman record for completion percentage, 65.8%. I mean, that obliterated the previous record of Jared Lorenzen, the hefty lefty from back in 2000. And then he also broke J-Lo's record of freshman touchdowns. He threw 12 touchdowns to J-Lo's 10. So, those are pretty, Jared Lorenzen's considered one of the more, well thought of, I guess, UK quarterbacks, that produced and at least brought a lot of excitement to the program. So, I mean, Cutter, he's of that mold, I think.
He didn't do it against air,
right?
For sure. And we've, talked here before about how difficult it is to play in that league. Yeah, I think you have to start with Cutter. He is the most important recruit you have, and he's already on your campus. Yeah. So I think they'll get it done. I don't think they're going to go anywhere. They're living in Lexington. They moved. The whole family moved from E-Town to Lexington, and I think they're there for a reason. I know it's business, which is, it literally is business now. Yeah. In this age of NIL, but I think they'll get it done. I'll be curious to see if any of the assistant coaches, who were, I think, 7 of them, is that the number, were their contracts expired this summer. I'll be curious to see how many of those guys, if any, are retained. I've already seen where Brad White is mentioned as a possible defensive coordinator at Florida for John Summerall. So it'll be interesting to see how all that plays out and who Will Stein, again, if he is the coach, who he brings in.
Yeah, I mean, and bringing up Summerall, of course, I think had UK made this move last year, I think Summerall's probably the guy who would have been coaching Kentucky this year.
I agree.
But this year, with all the jobs that were opening up, there's just no way Kentucky was going to get Summerall.
Let me interrupt you there, because I've talked to a buddy of mine who's a booster, and he thinks that Summerall asked Rich Brooks about the job, and Rich told him, "I don't know that you want to work there."
Right.
So even if Kentucky had tried to go after John, I'm not sure that John wouldn't have said, "You know what? It's my alma mater, and I love the place, but under the current situation, I don't think it's right for me."
Yeah. I mean, I saw late yesterday, after the announcement came out that Stoops was going to be let go, there's a local social media, very famous media outlet here that they posted an article that said, Kentucky moves too slowly and they miss on John Summerall. Is this the sliding door moment that could doom Kentucky football for years to come? I just thought that was a ridiculous take, because I don't care who you are. If you're a football coach and you're presented with identical offers salary-wise from Kentucky and from Florida for football, that's a no-brainer.
That's a no-brainer, because there's, on any given good year in this state, you might have 10 Division I football players. In the state of Florida, you've got several hundred.
Yeah.
Just from that alone, the recruiting base, Florida is ripe with athletes. Yeah. Florida also has tradition. Kentucky has a little bit of tradition.
Yeah.
Granted, again, Mark Stoops has made it a good job. It's currently a better situation than Florida, but in the overall scheme of things,
Right.
in the landscape of the Southeastern Conference and nationally, Florida is a better job.
Right. Florida has the funds to turn things around very quickly. And so, I mean, you know, if you want to deal with.
I think that NIL has leveled the playing field. Look at Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Can they sustain this? That's the issue. It's it's all gravy when you get to the top, but can you stay at the top? I think NIL allows Kentucky and a Will Stein to play at those levels. It's this, can you sustain the sustainability of all this? Can you do it for the long haul? I mean, we're talking about this because Mark Stoops couldn't sustain it.
Right.
And to me, he's the greatest coach Kentucky's had in my lifetime.
Right.
The numbers, I think, bear that out. And it's, it is what it is. I think NIL has played an important role in Vanderbilt and Ole Miss and schools. Look at Indiana.
Right.
There's a good chance they'll be playing for a national championship.
Right. Well, I mean, you talk about sustainability and you bring up Ole Miss. That's, I think, primarily the reason that Lane Kiffin is leaving Ole Miss is because he realizes that what he's done there is pretty special and historic for that program. And, again, there's just more money at LSU. Yeah. There's a greater group of kids to recruit from because he can leak over into Florida and steal those kids for sure.
Believe me, Louisiana turns out just as many players as the state of Florida. And, oh, by the way, Texas is just next door, which is, even more probably than the state of Florida. Yeah, I think Kiffin probably got Ole Miss to the pinnacle of where they can go.
Right. I just don't think they –
3 out of the last 4 coaches at LSU have won national championships. I firmly believe that Lane Kiffin is going to win a national championship. I even saw something last night from a media guy who was saying Lane Kiffin is going to turn college football on its head because he is just that kind of guy who will take that $25 million, and it might even be more, and go get the very best of the very best and just thumb everyone's nose at it.
Yeah.
And LSU, the school and the fan base, they're in lockstep with all that.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at the fact that they're paying the outgoing coach $53
they don't
million,
care.
And they don't care.
They don't care.
And they didn't even attempt to fight it, which I said that a few weeks ago. I said you don't have a leg to stand on to fight that because
that's true, but they don't care. And, okay, we owe you 50. Here it is.
So they turn around and then you
give him 91.
You think they're not going to do something quite as stupid? Are we going to put an end to this? And they pay him $91 million over 7 years. Not only that, this opens up a whole new can of worms with what we've got going on here. Is conceivably Ole Miss could win the national championship, and their coach has bailed on them right before it starts.
But LSU has already said and promised they will pay whatever the incentives were in Kiffin's Ole Miss contract, which could add up to $1 million. Right. It's like, well, let's give you 92,
which is just nuts.
If they win a national championship.
If your old team, while you're sitting at home on your ass,
and
wins the national championship, we're going to give you $1 million.
And while we're talking about Ole Miss, I want to salute Keith Carter, the athletic director, for kind of exposing Lane Kiffin for who he really is.
Yeah.
When all of this started, back when LSU fired Kelly, and we all start talking, well, you know who they're going to go after, Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss. He's going to be the big winner because now Florida wants him. They've already fired their coach. And so what Keith Carter did was he was like, I'm going to give you until December or November 30th. You're going to tell us what you're going to do, or we're going to make that decision for you.
Yeah.
And it forced Lane Kiffin to admit, like, yes, I am leaving. I don't want to be the coach here. The grass is going to be greener over here in Baton Rouge. And I kind of salute Keith Carter for, kind of playing ball with him.
Yeah, well, and then you have Ole Miss. One of they've named now their new head coach as one of their coordinators because Kiffin basically
Pete Golding.
Yeah, Kiffin told his staff, you either get on the plane with me now and go to LSU, or that's it.
Yeah.
And, kudos to that guy for sticking around and saying, maybe I got a shot here.
Yeah.
and good for him because
Carter wasted no time in naming Pete Golding the head coach. He was a defensive coordinator and was a defensive coordinator for Saban at Alabama for a couple of years.
So, I mean, that's a solid, dude's got a solid resume.
Yeah.
I mean, because Ole Miss has had a good defense the last couple of years. So why not give that guy a shot? Because you can probably pay him $4 or $5 million a year versus going out and trying to nail somebody down for who knows what now, $8, $9, $10 million a year, which is what seems to be the going rate.
Yeah.
Just so many crazy things happening with this whole thing. I mean,
it's been the wildest
Kiffin,
weekend of hirings and firings I can remember.
Yeah, I mean, Kiffin, he lobbied Ole Miss to let him stay on and coach through the end of the playoffs, which, there's no AD and university president in their right mind's going to allow him to do that because then he gets a month to coach and recruit these guys and show them, just how much better things are going to be in Baton Rouge. So, yeah, I don't blame him for saying, thanks, but no thanks. You can just go ahead and clean out your office. Just pretty crazy, and there's still a lot of, I would suspect over the next week or so now we'll start to see a whole lot of spots get filled because
the big dominoes have fallen.
Yeah.
Well, while we're at it, so Arkansas hires Ryan Silverfield, who Arkansas fans, was at Memphis, had 29 wins over the last 3 seasons, but Arkansas fans started congregating outside of the athletic director's office protesting.
Yeah.
Because, there were some numbers thrown around about how his defenses, compared over the last couple of years and especially this year and how bad they were. And then Auburn hires Alex Golesh, 3 years at South Florida. He had 23 wins. He was 9-3 this year. So that was a busy weekend in the Southeastern Conference, and that's just in the SEC. Penn State is still trying to find a coach. The last thing I saw before we turned the lights on here was that BYU's coach was probably going to be the guy.
Yeah.
So crazy stuff.
Yeah. Pretty nuts, but we'll be keeping an eye on it here over the next couple weeks. Just really interesting to see. I'll be anxious to see what Ole Miss does. I would,
and they host LSU next year, so it's probably going to be one of the hardest tickets in the history of Ole Miss football to get. But then on top of that, it's going to be just absolutely wild.
Yeah.
At the SIP.
Well, I mean, I would love nothing more now to see Ole Miss just go on a tear in the CFP.
Just go ahead and win it.
Yeah, and let the new coach take them to the promised land.
The problem is your starting quarterback, I think, is probably going to jump ship and go to LSU with Kiffin, so he's going to have 1 foot out the door.
Yeah, I mean, the big worry is how many of guys on that team are going to even play. They're probably going to sit out, and that's the age we live in at this point. So anyway, we'll it's hardly even giving us time to think about the tilt that goes on tomorrow night for us here in the Bluegrass, and that's University of Kentucky playing North Carolina in basketball. Number 18 Kentucky comes in at 5-2 against a North Carolina team that's ranked 16th. They're 6-1. They just lost their first game against Michigan State, who soundly thumped Kentucky a week or two ago.
They soundly thumped the Heels, too.
They beat North Carolina. I mean, the number on the board wasn't quite as bad as Kentucky's, but still, I watched that whole game, and they handled North Carolina. I think the final margin was about 15-16, something like that, but it wasn't really that close. They're just, no surprise. I mean, Izzo's a great basketball coach.
He is.
And he's very quietly put together a sneaky good bunch of players that aren't, they're not McDonald's All-Americans. They just go out there and they do what he asks them to do, and they do it very well. Watching that game in the couple of times that I've seen them play, they're a solid basketball team, that's for sure. The one basketball team that I've watched a few times so far this season that I find it hard to believe there are 6 more teams better than them in the NCAA, and that's Michigan.
Yeah.
They're a beast.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember who they were playing. They were playing in that Players era.
They had to play 3 days in a row.
Yeah, which was loosely based on AAU competition, the rules and the formatting. Yeah, and I think I tweeted out, Michigan is a problem.
Yeah, they played 3 games in 3 days against 3 very good basketball teams, and I think their average margin of victory was about 30 points. They won 2 of those games by 40, and then the other one by upper 20s or low 30s.
Dusty May is quietly engineering quite the juggernaut up there. Here was a former Indiana manager, Dusty May, who, he's been to Rupp Arena a couple times. But, that Michigan is really, really good.
Well, and
really good.
And their stud is the kid Lundborg, who came in, and of all the transfer portal dudes that I really, really wanted to come to Kentucky, he was a guy, and now you're seeing why. That guy, he's got it all. I mean, he is everything you want in a leader and a scorer, just a stud all the way around. So, I think Kentucky's. I think I saw the spread. They're like a 7 or 8 point dog, maybe.
A dog or a?
I thought
they were a favorite at home.
I could be wrong, but anyway, who knows? I mean, I don't know which Kentucky team is going to show up. For one thing, they've had almost a week now to game plan for this. The fact that we're at home, I do like that. We do tend to shoot a little bit better at home, so maybe Chandler will come out hot. I don't know. I just I've not been this apathetic this early in the season for a while.
Well, I don't think you're alone though.
Yeah.
I know that I can't get excited about watching this team play. And quite frankly, with all the football stuff going on, all the football news flying around, I haven't even considered that game tomorrow night. It's 9:30 tip.
It's a late tip. Thankfully, I'm off on Wednesday, so I can stay up late and watch it. But I may not want to,
right?
Depending on which Kentucky team decides to show up. I mean, we've beat this horse to death. I mean, if Pope doesn't dial down the substitutions and the lineups and that kind of thing, we've got to start identifying groupings of guys that play really well together, and let those guys, get things done when they're hot. And I don't know that we do that.
Yeah, I was telling my booster friend buddy tonight, because he was complaining about basketball as well, that you can make a spreadsheet full of numbers say whatever it wants, whatever you want it to say. And Mark Pope is an unabashed fan of the data, as he likes to say. I just wish there was a more I don't know what the word is, but make yourself
got to be a gut feeling.
Yeah. I was going to say that that your substitutions and it's based on the flow of the game instead of like, well, his plus minus is -3 or I don't know. And again, the next basketball game I coach will be my first. Yeah. I'll give you that. And he's making $6 million and I'm not. But I think there's one knock I've had on it, and you've heard me repeatedly say it's the substitution stuff. I am glad to see that Malachi probably is not coming out of that starting lineup now. Yeah. Until Jaden Quaintance comes around, and then all bets are off for obvious reasons.
He could take Diabate's place at that point.
Yeah. I think it'll be a decent game. Carolina hasn't been the Carolina of old since Hubert Davis took over, but they're still good. They're still a brand name. Right. So that's always a fun matchup. Carolina's the one team, I believe, the one team that Kentucky's played numerous times over the years that has a winning record against Kentucky.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So,
yeah, I mean,
it's still Carolina.
Yeah, but going back to Mark Pope's fascination with analytics. The only analytics the numbers that matter to me is the
scoreboard.
That scoreboard. And when you play 2 marquee games and you just get dog walked like we did in both of those games, I can analyze that all day long.
And there's a chance they go 0 for 2 this week.
Yeah, because
you got Gonzaga on
Friday night, and that one's on a neutral floor. So who knows? I mean, Gonzaga, I've seen them a couple times so far this season. One game they looked really good. The other one,
game they got blown out by Michigan.
Yeah, by Michigan.
By 40.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what well, of course, now you probably can't get good odds, but if you want to be a futures better and put some money down on Michigan to win the national championship.
You can still do that.
Probably be.
I'll help you.
Probably not be a bad bet. I think, I was born in Michigan, so they can at least be my secondary rooting interest behind Kentucky. So, anyway. But we will be rooting this week, starting Thursday night, for the UK volleyball team, who snag a number 1 seed in the Lexington Regional. They get to host. Number 2 overall. You got Nebraska as the number 1 overall seed, then Kentucky, and you have Texas and Pitt make up the 4 number 1 seeds.
And Kentucky's beaten 2 of those teams.
Yep.
They got beat earlier this year by one of their 2 losses was to Nebraska.
Right. We I don't know. I mean, obviously it would be awesome if we came down to have to play Nebraska for either in the Final Four. I didn't look at the brackets to see how it would work out, but
I'm sure it would be 1 versus 2.
Yeah, it'd be awesome to see them and beat them for the national championship, but I wouldn't get my feelings hurt if somebody surprised Nebraska and knocked them out.
Nebraska's coach came from Louisville, where she created and built that program up.
Louisville's a 2 seed in this NCAA tournament,
and they're in Nebraska's bracket, the lower half of or their half of the bracket.
Yeah, so that'd be all right. I dare to say I would root for Louisville in that. That'd
going
be
against their old coach.
That'd be tough to make me say I would actually cheer for Louisville in anything, but I might in that situation.
Yeah.
But yes, Thursday night, 7:00, Kentucky kicks it off against Wofford. That'll be available to view on ESPN Plus. If they were to win against Wofford, they'll face the winner of the UCLA Georgia Tech game. So yeah, I mean it's just exciting. 21 straight NCAA tournament appearances,
which is pretty amazing. I saw that number earlier today and I wrote it down. I'm like, I didn't realize that they have been to 21 straight.
Yeah. So easily the most successful program at the University of Kentucky in the last 21 years.
Greg Skinner.
I
don't think all 21 of those are his.
Yeah, but still, that's pretty impressive. That's why we said we'd put him on our Mount Rushmore of UK coaches. He's definitely up there. So I think that'll wrap up sports. We'll move on to our music and vinyl section. I'll talk just kind of briefly about I did go to a concert the other night. Saturday night. I went to Cincinnati to the Taft Theater to see Bela Fleck and the Flecktones. Bela Fleck is the greatest banjo player on the face of the planet, and I know you think banjo player, you probably immediately think, at least from around these parts, we think about hee-haw and things growing up.
Grandpa Jones.
Yeah, and bluegrass music.
Kentuckian.
But Bela Fleck was kind of interesting dude. I mean, he's in his mid-60s now, but I don't know that if they were born in the Lexington area, but they definitely played a whole lot of gigs in the central Kentucky and Lexington area. But he's a banjo player, but he liked to play funk and jazz and things like that. So he put together a group of guys that were able to kind of successfully mesh those styles of music together. And that group was together for, 12, 14 years. And just this, a couple months ago, they decided they were going to get back together with the original lineup and go on tour for a Christmas tour called Jingle All the Way. So they had that show up in Cincinnati Saturday night. It was one of the early dates on the list. They're playing about 20, 25 cities. I think Cincinnati was like number 3 or so. They started out at the Ryman, so many shows do. But it was pretty awesome. They've got they got a guy on bass named Victor Wooten, who for my money is one of the top. I mean, I think you got Jaco Pastorius, and then you've got Victor Wooten, probably two best bass players of all time. Also in the band, you got Victor's older brother, Roy Wooten, who is more known by the name of Future Man. And we'll post some pictures of Future Man.
You got to take pictures at this one.
Yeah, I got to take pictures at this one, unlike the Herbie Hancock show. But I was up in the balcony, first row of the balcony, which, by the way, if you're going to go to see a show at the Taft, highly recommend first row balcony. You can see everything. I think the sound is better. But, yeah, it was fun to sit up there and watch. Future Man, you'll be able to see in the picture, he plays this thing called the drumitar, which he invented and then got it built. But basically, he wanted a guitar-like instrument that would simulate a drum kit. And so it's got multiple sets of – it's got strings. It's got a bunch of keys on it. I don't know how he even begins to play it. But when he's walking around playing it, you think he's walking around with a drum kit strapped to him. Yeah, it's nuts. The original saxophone player with Bela Fleck and the Flecktones, Jeff Coffin, who now plays with Dave Matthews Band, was with them. Their original harmonica player and keyboardist, Howard Levy, he had some unforeseen health issues that pulled him off the tour right before it started. So that was kind of unfortunate, but they did have, an awesome lineup with those four guys. They also had with them a special guest, a group called Alash. They are from Tuva in Siberia. Oh, God. These guys are like Siberian monks, and they are throat singers, which I had no idea what a throat singer was. These dudes come out dressed in traditional garb, and are you familiar with the Australian instrument, the didgeridoo?
Yes.
So a throat singer, to me, while I'm sitting there, I mentioned to my buddy, I'm like, this sounds like, when they open their mouths, it sounds like a didgeridoo from Australia. And it's kind of reminiscent of like the Gregorian monks and the chanting they do. But they somehow,
it's more guttural.
In the way they vibrate their vocal cords, not only can they produce this sound that sounds like a chant, or more appropriately, I think, like the didgeridoo, but they can make it sound like there's multiple ones of those going on and at different keys in the same. So I don't have any idea how they do it, but they brought these dudes on stage and they did several things by themselves, playing instruments that looked like they literally whipped them together out of whatever was laying around on their, farm or wherever they are from in Siberia. But then they also played several songs with Bela and the Flecktones. But it was a Christmas show, so they did all kinds of very familiar Christmas songs interspersed with their own music, and they just were able to weave these really interesting medleys together, and just the jazziest, funkiest versions of every Christmas song imaginable. One of the coolest things they did was they came out after intermission, and Bela said, we thought it would be fun to do the 12 Days of Christmas and do it in 12 different keys.
Oh, goodness.
So they play, and then he said, and then somebody in the band, and they all looked at Future Man, said that not only should we do it in 12 different keys, we should do it in 12 different time signatures. So they proceed to play the 12 Days of Christmas. Every line, every day is in a different key and in a different time signature. And as the song builds, they shift between each key and time signature.
That's nuts.
Absolutely nuts. I don't play an instrument.
No, that would be way too much info to try to process
and
on the fly.
Yeah, it was crazy how good they were. So,
wow.
Just a fun show. I mean, I've seen Bela Fleck a couple different times now, and guy's just super talented. And it's not just, so many people just associate him with bluegrass banjo playing, and man, that is just such a small fraction of what he does as a musician. So, a whole lot of fun, enjoyable show. The Taft is a great place to go see a show. So.
Well, I wasn't all that familiar with his music. I knew who he was. I just never had heard a lot of it. And you sent me a couple of YouTube videos, and I was listening, and it's like it's funky, but it also kind of sounds a little bit like fusion almost, and just the way
very jazz heavy.
Yes,
improv jazz for sure.
He's very good, and it's cool. It's very cool stuff.
Yeah, they're pretty awesome. So. And I was excited because, also my big thing with the Herbie Hancock show is not only could I not take pictures, but dude had zero merch, which really was a bummer.
But spend that money, man.
Yeah, Bela Fleck had, they had merch, and which is, most of these concerts I go to, I can expect to spend $40 or $50 on a poster, and I go to the table at their booth, and all their posters are autographed, and they're not a pre-printed autograph either. I mean, you can tell it's a real deal. All the guys have signed it, and then they also had vinyl that was signed. And I've got several Bela Fleck albums, but a lot of them are from the late '70s, early '80s, and they're pretty heavy bluegrass stuff. Because when Bela Fleck and the Flecktones started becoming popular, it was all about cassette. CD.
Sure. Yeah.
So there's just not if you come across anything of theirs on vinyl, it's expensive. I mean, this autographed vinyl at the show was expensive too, but I'm kind of like, man, this is pretty cool, kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity. So I'm gonna grab this, and it's an album. It's called Flight of the Cosmic Hippo, which I have listened to multiple times. So I thought that's pretty awesome that they've got that. So I had a good time.
Nobody got hurt.
Nobody got hurt.
That's right.
Except my wallet. Wallet got hurt. I'm going to try to get the wallet back in shape through music this weekend at Country Boy in Lexington. Country Boy Brewing is having a vintage and vinyl fest in their tap room. So I'm going to go over there and set up and try to offload some vinyl and maybe offset some of what I spent.
Is this the new Country Boy or the old?
This is the original tap room on Chair Avenue.
That's tight in there.
Yeah. They've got a small space. I don't think there's a whole lot of vendors coming. I don't know exactly what all's going to be there. I think I'm the only vinyl vendor there. So, but nothing else. It'll be fun to get out and see some people. I'm sure there'll be some folks that
remind them that you mentioned their beer on the podcast.
Oh,
maybe they'll hit you.
Absolutely.
Send you home with something.
Those guys have been so good to me over the last 13, 14 years that I can't ask them to give me much else. But they probably would if I did. So
I think you're the official vinyl guy of Country Boy Brewing.
I have good luck when I go to Country Boy. So I need people to show up over there on Saturday to help.
Kids got to have Christmas, right?
To help me pay for my concert posters and things like that. But we talked a little bit last week about the fact that, talking about vinyl, we pick up all these old records, and a lot of times you come across records that, you might have a family member or something, or you see something on Facebook Marketplace, and these records will look like somebody's been dragging them down. That's about the only way to put it. Just look like they've been dragged through a field. And so that's the first thing I do when I buy records. I bring them home, and I always say I give them a bath. And you and I kind of use the same technique, I think.
Yeah, so I use a product by Knox Gear, and basically all it is it's I don't know, about the size of a sheet of paper, just big enough to get a 12-inch album in there. You fill it. They recommend you use distilled water, and there's a cleaning solution, which is probably nothing more than alcohol. But then you fill this base up with the water, and then I'm putting pictures up. You put the vinyl in there, and you basically just spin it around in the water, and then
there's a couple of pads in there. You'll see that from the pictures. There's a couple of pads that the record passes through to kind of give you a little bit of compression and kind of sweep away
Yeah,
whatever might be
gets
in
down
there.
in the grooves of the album, and then basically you they give you a like a chamois or whatever you want to call it, a nice soft rag to clean it with, or to dry it off with rather,
Right.
and then you just basically air dry them.
Right. Let
So
them dry. And when I first started buying vinyl almost 6 years ago now, yeah, I realized I'm bringing home these records from peddlers malls and flea market kind of setups, and I noticed there's fingerprints all over them. They're dusty, and so I started doing a little research, and I came across this product. It's called a Spin Clean, which is the most well-known brand of what we're talking about. It's the plastic tank, and I think you kind of did what I did. I thought, you look at it, and Spin Clean goes for anywhere from about 65 to about 85 or $90.
I'm gonna spend $20.
And I thought, man, that's pretty expensive. And so I started looking, and I found mine is from a company called Big Fudge.
I've seen those.
They make all kinds of vinyl products. I mean, I think I spent about 40 or 45 for this one, and it came with several towels and the cleaning solution. I've since bought more cleaning solution because I've gone through it all. But yeah, I was kind of skeptical of whether or not it would really work. And the first record, when I hooked my first turntable up here in the basement, I had gone out to my parents and grabbed the old albums that I had from when I was a kid. And so one of the ones I wanted to put on and spin first, or the very first one I put on was the Kiss Alive album. And put it on, and it just sounded like garbage. And I thought, man,
it was dirty.
This is really disappointing. So it was, fast forward a couple of weeks later, I got my, cleaning tank, and I thought, I'm going to just clean this one and see if that makes a difference. It's like night and day.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously this thing's not going to fix a deep gouge, scratch or something like that. But anytime I go buy records, doesn't matter where they come from, they get a bath before they ever go on the turntable. I've gotten to where brand new albums that I take out of when I cut the plastic away from it, they get a bath, because record plants are not clean. You'll pull things out of the sleeve and they're dusty. They've got stuff on them. So I'll clean them. I will typically, if I play something a couple times, I'll clean it again. So I mean, I don't, I try to take care of things so because vinyl is it's a degradable product.
Sure.
So you got to make sure you're taking care of your equipment, and needles got to be good and everything. So, yeah, well worth the investment if you are thinking about getting into the vinyl hobby. You want to pick up something to clean those records before you drop them on your turntable.
Yeah, and I think the one that I bought was maybe like $30. It's on Amazon.
Yeah.
And they'll sell the cleaning solution, extra bottles or whatever. I'm with Dion. It's like the dust can get in the grooves, and you can actually hear it.
Yeah.
You can hear the dust in the grooves.
Yeah, I'm pretty OCD about the way I handle my records. Is my fingertips, if I can help it, never touch the playing surface. When I pull one out of the sleeve, I've got just long enough hands that I can reach to the center and get the little spindle hole and kind of slide them out. But when I clean mine, I actually wear non-powdered vinyl latex gloves so that I don't get finger oils on them. It's like my whole goal is to get them clean. So I try to do that most of the time. Sometimes some of the older vinyl is thicker.
Yes.
And it's more difficult to spin through the tank. That's when the gloves come in handy. Now, if it's a thinner, more newer vinyl, you can usually put those in there and kind of just barely touch the edges, the non-playing surface, and you can spin them around pretty easy. So, yeah, just take care of your records. That's they'll.
It's a non-expensive way, or an inexpensive way, I should say. Yeah. There's no such word as non-expensive, I guess. Inexpensive way to get rid of some of that pop and hiss, and also take care of your records, like you said.
Yeah, I think you will definitely see some difference in the records. I've had records that, like I said, didn't sound great until I cleaned them, and you can definitely tell a difference for sure. But anyway, we'll be hopefully, like I said, hopefully I'm gonna sell some records this weekend. I'm always on the lookout for new ones. I've been kind of stalking a couple of larger collections on Facebook right now.
Okay.
But just deciding whether or not to pull the trigger is a different story. So anyway, before I went to my show on Saturday, I guess I should back up if we're going to do chronologically. Of course, this was Thanksgiving.
Right.
Everybody was eating this weekend. Did you do anything for Black Friday?
Oh, no.
Yeah,
I actually had to work Friday because of high school football playoffs.
Oh, there you go.
So, no.
Well, I got up at about 5:30 on Black Friday and was in line at Ethereal Brewing in Lexington by 6:40 on Friday morning. And here in Central Kentucky, it was about 19 crisp degrees.
That's what you get.
Every year, a lot of breweries across the country, really, but here in town, in Lexington area, we've got several breweries that do Black Friday releases, special releases. Black Friday just happens to coincide with Ethereal's anniversary, so they really play it up all weekend. But they released some special beers on Friday, and I went over there for that. And it's honestly gotten to be. The beer's important. I'm there to get those beers, but it's also a lot of fun just to hang out with people that we've been doing this for 10, 11, 12 years now. So it's fun, the camaraderie of hooking up with the other beer nerds.
It's like waiting in line for concert tickets.
Yeah. I mean,
back in the day.
Yeah, everybody's there, so it's just fun to hang out. But then the reward is some good beer. And then we also had, they always do a little something special at Ethereal, and they brought in pizza this year, breakfast pizzas from Dingbats, which I've talked about on here before.
Yep.
But man, they brought in pizza. I'll throw up pictures of these, and it was about 4 different kinds of breakfast pizzas, and they had, most of the slices had an egg on them. So I had a sausage gravy pizza. So you had the dough served basically as the biscuit, and then sausage gravy, and then a fried egg on top of that. And then I had another one that was a bacon and egg. I was joking with the guy who made the pizzas, the guy who is one of the co-owners of Dingbats. I was like, man, I don't know how you got those eggs made at your pizza shop and then over here to the brewery and had them still taste like that. I said, I'm doing good if I can cook an egg that looks like that when that's the only thing I've got going on. Right in front of me, one thing, cook this egg. And he was doing it for, I don't know how many pizzas they brought. And they were in boxes almost the size of this table. But yeah, great pizza. If you're in the Lexington area, I just cannot sing the praises of Dingbats much more than that. But they make some great pizza. But we had good pizza, good beer. We'll be drinking a couple of those. We're drinking one of their special releases tonight. We'll talk about that in a second. But their big release was a beer called it's Baba Yaga, which they do a bigger release in January of that beer. But this one was a specialty version of it, aged in Amburana wood, and it clocked in at about 16%.
Goodness.
But, that morning they also did a series of 4 or 5 different I called them breakfast beers. They were coffee beers. So had the flight of those. So good stuff. And then made my way over with some friends from there. A couple of the brewers from Ethereal went over with us to West 6th. West 6th Brewing in Lexington also had some special releases. I've got a couple things from them in the coming weeks. We'll crack those open on here and talk about them. But just a fun weekend from a craft beer standpoint in Lexington, because just good stuff all the way around. Did you eat anything good this week besides turkey?
Man, as I've
or are you just
said,
doing leftovers? You crushing the leftovers?
I am. I'm crushing the leftovers. Although last night I did some Mexican here.
Oh, there you go.
So
yeah, you gotta break out of it a little bit.
Yeah,
I did the same thing. I mean, like, I think a lot of people do the same thing. We had, we did my wife's side of the family on Thanksgiving Day, and then my family traditionally we get everybody together on the Saturday after Thanksgiving. So 2 different huge big meals. So we tried to sandwich in between and around those things. I did Saturday before my concert, I was like, I need something that's not quite so heavy and everything. So I ended up at a little place in Cincinnati called Bourbon's Craft Kitchen and Bar, and I ordered a salad.
Oh my gosh!
I felt like, I hadn't had. I mean, I had vegetables, but they were like green beans with bacon grease and potatoes turned into floating in butter, that kind of thing. But yeah, I had a berry and goat cheese salad. It was excellent. Had the thing, I don't know, you'll be able to pick it out on the picture or not, but it had the largest cashews in this salad that I think I've ever seen in my entire lifetime. And cashew is my favorite. To me, that's the king of all nuts.
I do like cashews.
Absolutely, cashews. But yeah, I had that. And then Sunday morning, actually, my wife and I went over to University of Louisville. My youngest daughter was singing the national anthem at Louisville. Women's basketball is having some kind of tournament over there. I still haven't been able to determine what what the format was, but anyway, at the beginning of the session, Bela went over there to sing the national anthem. There were more players and officials and coaches there than there were spectators at 11 in the morning.
Sure,
but it's still it's fun. It was an honor for her to get to do that. But we stuck around long enough to hear her sing, and I couldn't even tell you the two directional schools that were playing the first round of that tournament. Louisville wasn't playing until later in the day. We might have stuck around had the Louisville women been playing early, but we bailed and went to have breakfast, which is what we typically do. So we went to a place over there in Louisville called Con Huevos. Excellent. If you're there's 3 or 4 locations in Louisville. I had the Chipotle poached huevos, so it was a couple of biscuits with poached eggs on top, chorizo, and a Chipotle gravy and avocado. Several good things on there. But yeah, they were speaking my love language with that dish, that's for sure. That's throw up a picture of that. It's good stuff. But yeah, I don't know if I've got anything planned to go out to eat in the next few days, but I'm sure I'll come up with something.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, we're drinking tonight one of the Ethereal Brewing specialty beers. This is called Tiki Master Shake. Master Shake is a series they do of a variety of different sours with all sorts of ingredients. This one in particular is billed as an imperial sour with calamansi, lime, pineapple, cream of coconut, orgeat, and molasses and vanilla bean. The lime definitely is prevalent. That's the calamansi lime is very tart. But this is unusual beer because that I didn't know what orgeat was. I looked it up, and it's I can't remember now what they exactly classified it as. But one of the things that flavor characteristics was a nutty sort of almost spice, and I get that for sure from it. But a little bit of sweetness on the back end from the molasses and the vanilla bean. If I'm being 100% honest, there have been other Master Shake representations that I've maybe liked a little bit better than this one. But still, this one's really good, very tart, and it's pretty potent for this type of beer. It's 10%. But I won't have any problem drinking the other 3 in this 4-pack. That's for sure. It's pretty tasty.
It is tart.
Yeah,
I like the sours.
I was going to spring the other anniversary, and we still may drink it at some point. One of their others that I picked up, 4-pack, was a Decatron. It's a triple IPA, lots of hops. It's got some bitterness, but it's smooth. But it's also potent for an IPA for sure. But anyway, we've got some good beers to drink over the next few weeks, and hopefully we'll have lots of good things to talk about. At least we can be excited for what we hope is to come for Kentucky football.
I guess never know.
I guess as the next domino to fall will be, can Will Stein come in here and give his pitch to Cutter Boley?
Yeah,
get him to stay.
Convince Cutter Boley to stay.
Because I think if Cutter stays, you get a couple of these young wide receivers might fall in line. Hopefully.
I would agree with that. I would agree. Okay. I think Cutter would be priority number one, and then assembling some kind of a staff.
Yeah.
So I'll be interested to see who is his defensive coordinator, because I'm sure Will is going to probably call the plays.
Yeah.
So he's going to be his own OC.
You don't think he'll keep Bush around?
I think Bush is, there's a job or two open. Yeah. He can go search.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just, I'm really torn about the whole thing because
same.
I have a relationship.
I'm not friends with the guy. Like
I don't.
You
well, I'm not.
So,
I don't hang out at Mark Stoops' house, but I am able to talk to him on a completely different level about some things, and he's been very open, very honest about a lot of things. I mean, we've talked about a lot of things away from football, and I posted. I always ask him about his kids, and I think that's a part of this that maybe fans don't consider is that he got divorced around COVID
4 years ago. Yeah, 4 or 5 years ago,
and his kids are in Denver.
Yeah.
And he's got 2 boys, and Will, I think, is now at TCU. We had a conversation about that the other day. I'm like, why would he go to TCU? And he goes, have you ever seen TCU? That kind of thing. Yeah. Very affluent school. Anyway, that's got to be really, really difficult on a guy like Mark who, he's big on his kids.
Yeah. Well, I look for Mark to turn up. I don't think he's not done. He's not done coaching.
Colorado State has an opening. Yeah. Last I checked.
Colorado may have an opening.
Well, that's true. And it would be so cool if he landed at a place like Colorado State, because now he's not from Colorado. Obviously, he's from Youngstown, Ohio.
Right.
But his ex-wife is from the Denver area. So, and that's where they're the youngest is still in school in the Denver area. So it'd be cool for Mark to be able to get back to his kids.
Yeah,
I wish that for him more than anything.
I hope the guy has success at his next stop, wherever that may be, because like I said, torn over, I feel like it's probably the right time for Kentucky to make a change. But, man, you just hate to see a guy who's had the success at a school that's never had the success and see it end like this. You don't want to see it end like this. I would have much rather seen him get hired away by a program because of the success at Kentucky as opposed to him basically getting run out of town.
And I mentioned to you a couple of weeks ago that I had that conversation with Vince Marrow, who's now at Louisville. Mm-hmm. Saw him at a high school football game, and he was worried about the legacy they leave over here.
Right.
I think Mark has nothing to be ashamed of. Obviously it could have been a little bit better, but my goodness, those 2 guys single-handedly took this football program to heights it had never been to.
Yeah, absolutely.
8 straight bowl games, 10-win seasons, which had never happened. He's put more guys in the NFL in his 13 years here than I think the previous 35 years of Kentucky football. So he was getting players. He and Vince were getting players, and that was the thing. They were recruiting and developing, and they kind of got away from that.
Yeah.
But the portal does that to you. It just kind of teases you and says,
quick fix.
Yes.
Yeah, quick fix. But we'll certainly be cheering for Mark Stoops, no matter where he ends up. And we'll try to cheer this week. Hopefully, our basketball cats can do something and get things rolling, and then we're going to pin all the hopes on the volleyball team. We'll do that.
They've got a legitimate chance of winning their 2nd national championship.
Absolutely. So hopefully next week we'll be talking about several of those things. But until then, we just say cheers, and we'll see you next time.